Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner. Welcome back to my channel. This is the very first of my weekly reading wrap-ups. So if you saw my 2017 goals video last week, you will have seen that I've decided to change the format of how I wrap up my reading each month. I'm not going to be doing it monthly, I am going to be doing it weekly. Even if I only read one book for the week, I'm going to do it this way. I think it will really give me a better opportunity to share a little bit more about the books that I'm reading, what I liked and what I didn't like about them. It also means that I won't be doing TBR videos each month because I'm going to be wrapping up a lot quicker. So you're actually going to get more of a real-time look at what I'm reading anyway. And for those of you who are curious, I actually have a monthly TBR list that I have listed on my blog. The link for my blog down below. If you look across the top of my blog page, you'll see that there is a TBR tab. You scroll down and find the list, the one that says 2017, and it will show you what I'm currently reading. Likewise, you can follow me on Goodreads, that's also listed down below, and that will also show you what I'm currently reading. Without further ado, I'm going to get straight into wrapping up my week. So this is for the week beginning January 1st to January 7th. Let's get started. So the first book that I read this year was Microbes Cut. Now this book I started just before the end of the year and I didn't get a chance to finish it, so I was only about a third of the way through. This is a German thriller novel that has been translated into English. I received this as a review copy from Allen and Unwin, so thank you very much to them for sending it to me. It is the story about Gabriel Newman, who was witness to a murder when he was very, very young, and now 30 years later his girlfriend is kidnapped, and the kidnapper contacts him and taunts him to sort of remember what happened way back when he was younger and he witnessed this murder. So it is very much a thriller. It did take me a little bit to get into this book. It was a little bit slower than I perhaps expected, but once you get into the meat of it, it really picks up the pace. And I will say this is not for the squeamish. You know, some of the things that happened in here were quite icky. I do like crime novels, I do like thrillers, and I am glad that I read this one. I think I gave it about 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely pick it up if you are like that sort of thing. The next book that I read was also a review copy, and it's not a novel, it's actually a children's book, and that is Magnificent Creatures by Anna Wright. And look at that gorgeous gold foiling on the front cover. I will say off the bat, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I love children's books. I'm a teacher. This book will be going into school and it will be put on my special books bookshelf to share with kids. This is actually a non-fiction book. It is all about magnificent creatures, and I'm going to read you what it says on the back. It says, "We live in an amazing world surrounded by magnificent creatures, great and small. They make this earth a magical place to live." Inside, it is filled with the most gorgeous illustrations. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Anna Wright's work, she tends to work a lot in pen and ink illustrations, collage, and watercolors and the like. So, I mean, this book is absolutely stunning. The really nice thing about this is sort of like an intro to non-fiction for young readers. I mean, adults will enjoy this as well because it's so beautiful. Each animal only has maybe a paragraph of information about it, so it's really just the pertinent facts about each animal, so it sort of gives you a taster and intrigues you into learning more. And there was an animal in here. Maybe I'm just not well read enough on animals to know this. Oh, here it is. The springbok. I've never heard of a springbok before, so now I know something about a springbok, which is really cool. So I really love this book. Thank you again to Allen Unwin for sending it up. Definitely check it out if you see it in a store because it's beautiful. The next book that I read this month was The Interrogation of Charlotte Wolfe, which is by Amberlynn Quay Molina. I think I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, so if I am, my sincerest apologies. This is a dystopian novel. It's the first book in a series. I think the series is called The Tribe, and it is about a Charlotte Wolfe who is captured by the chief administration. So in this world, you have the regular population, you also have the illegals. These are people who have abilities, could be anything, and they've run away from the community because the community insists on registering anyone with abilities. Charlotte has run away because she didn't want to be registered. She didn't want to be put into a detention camp, which is where all of the people who are registered and have dangerous abilities are kept. And one day she is captured, and this is the story of her interrogation as they try and find out where her tribe are and how to capture them and bring them in because they are threatening the existence of the community. What I really loved about this was the Indigenous ties to it. There is a wonderful aspect of this that ties in with the Rainbow Serpent story, which is amazing. And Shala is such a wonderful character. She is so strong and she's a great leader and she looks after her people. She considers them, you know, her tribe, her family. This is just a really wonderful story and such a unique sort of dystopian. I haven't read anything quite like this one. And there is a massive twist in it. When the twist comes, it's amazing and I loved it. And this is a really great book. Definitely pick it up if you haven't. Yay for Australian young adult fiction. I'm definitely going to try and pick up the next 2 books in this series to try and finish it off because the characters in this were fantastic. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Then I started my reread of the Star Wars X-Wing series. So this is the first book in the series, Rogue Squadron by Michael A. Stackpole. This is a purely nostalgic sort of read for me because it's not the greatest piece of fiction ever written, but it's something that I absolutely love because the X-Wing series was the Star Wars book series that I started reading and just fell in love with all of the characters. So this book follows the reformation of Rogue Squadron 2 years after the end of Return of the Jedi. Wedge Antilles is one of the remaining members of the original Rogue Squadron, and he puts together a new team in order to help the fledgling New Republic to restore order to the galaxy. There are problems with this book, and I will admit that. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars, and you know, it's probably like a 3.5 out of 5 stars, but nostalgia forces me to knock that up. And I'm not going to apologize for that because I think there are always books that we have that, no matter whether or not they're perfect, they hold a special place in our heart. I love the characters of Wedge and Tycho in this series. I wish there were more women in the books, and unfortunately there are not, but I think this is just going to be the pitfall of the Star Wars books. Overall, it's a fun read. It's a nostalgic read. If you like Star Wars, you're probably going to like it, as long as you don't take it too seriously, and that's what you have to keep in mind with these books. Do not take them too seriously. It's not meant to be like that. There's a lot of fights in space, and I don't know about any of you, but I've never fought a battle in space in a starfighter, so I honestly can't comment on the accuracy of the details of that. For the most part, if you're just looking for an enjoyable Star Wars read, this is it. Then I read The Princess Diaries by Carrie Fisher. This is the book that she released just prior to her death. It is her diaries of the time when she was on the set of the first Star Wars film. Guys, if you have not read one of Carrie Fisher's books, either read this or read Wishful Drinking. She is one of the most interesting writers to read. The way she writes, it's like she's sitting in the room talking to you, and it's incredible. So the first part of this book is really just her recounting events. And obviously the publicity of this book is surrounding her affair with Harrison Ford on that first film. And she's very practical and pragmatic about it. The second part of the book are actually excerpts from her diaries. What she talks about in this book is how writing was always her refuge and it was her outlet. So while she was on the set of Star Wars for 3 months, and while she was having this affair, she was writing about it. And sometimes she wrote about it in diary form, sometimes she wrote about it in poems. And guys, her poems are incredible. I only tabbed a few places because, to be perfectly honest, I could have tabbed the entire book because there are just moments that are hilarious, and there are moments that are really heartbreaking, and there are moments that are so real. So if you haven't read this, I do highly recommend that you check it out. Even if you're not a huge Carrie Fisher fan, do check it out because the way that she writes is just wonderful, and I'm so glad that I read it. Overall, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read this month was an arc sent to me by NetGalley. That was Down the Rabbit Hole by Julia Crane. Unfortunately, I ended this week on a really down note. I only gave this book 2.5 out of 5 stars. It is sort of an Alice in Wonderland reimagining. Anyway, in this world, Alice has been raised in Wonderland by the Red Queen, knowing that there is a prophecy that when she and her twin sister reach the age of 18, they will need to fight it out for the survival of Wonderland. This premise sort of strikes me very much as Alice in Wonderland meets Three Dark Crowns, and it's sort of pulled it off in the same way, which means that it didn't really do it at all. What I found with this book, you know, I like to give things a lot of credit, but I don't know what it was about this book. It was a struggle to read it. Lacey and Alice were these two characters that I just couldn't connect with. They were 17 turning 18, however, to me they read a lot younger. There were a lot of relationships and people were thrown together, I think, for the sake of having people in a relationship, and I can't stand that. Why does every female character need to be in a relationship? I don't know. I don't think their relationships actually brought anything to the story. Sort of the redeeming things about the book, I really like the idea of the Mad Hatter in the story, and I can't really share why because that was sort of a bit away, although he wasn't in it enough for me to say that he could have saved the story in any way. I also like the Red and the White Queens. I thought they were quite interesting, but again, we didn't get very much into their backstory. We got a little bit more on the Red Queen. I was pleasantly surprised by the information that was shared there. I thought that was quite interesting. Unfortunately, the ending felt really rushed, like it was too easy. So, I mean, it's apparently the first book in a series, so I hope that if the author continues, that something terrible goes wrong at the start of the second book, because nothing should be that easy when everything has been so hard in the book. So it was a little bit disappointing to end the week on not quite a negative note, but just on a disappointing note, because I love Alice in Wonderland retellings or reimaginings or whatever you want to call them. And I was hoping for good things with that one, but unfortunately not. So that is my wrap up for the week. So yay, week 1 of weekly wrap ups done. Let me know down below, what have you been reading this week? What have you been really enjoying? Next week, I am participating in the Winter Biannual Bibliothon. So I will have a video TBR for that, so I'll pop it up above. Like I said, I won't be doing TBR videos at the start of every week, but I will be sharing any readathon TBRs that I have. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye.